A politician was campaigning in a rural area. Outside a little house, he saw a young man milking a cow. He approached the young man, ready to make his pitch for a vote. Just as he was getting started, an old man called from inside the house, "Luke, get in the house." "And who is that out there you're talking to?" "Says he's a politician, Pop," Luke said. "In that case, you'd better bring the cow inside the house, too." Politicians have a way of getting a bad reputation. Some of them have earned this unsavory reputation. Others, however, have not. One of the greatest leaders our country has ever known, Ronald Reagan, was one of the good politicians. Reagan was the 40th President of the United States and served as the 33rd Governor of California before his presidency. Among other things, he was a beloved leader and a superb public speaker. He was even given the nickname the Great Communicator. Many people are unaware of Reagan's background prior to the presidency. He attended Eureka College in Illinois on an athletic scholarship. While he was in college, he majored in economics and sociology. He was also very active in extracurricular activities. He played football, ran track, was captain of the swim team, served as student council president, and acted in school productions. He graduated from college with honors in 1932. Not long after he graduated, his acting career took off. Reagan's acting career is another thing that many Americans are not aware of. In 1937, he signed a 7-year contract with the Warner Brothers movie studio, which is still very popular today. Over the next 3 decades, he appeared in more than 50 films. 2 of his best-known roles were in the 1940 film Newt Rockne and the 1942 film King's Row. His involvement in an organization for actors led to his meeting of a young woman by the name of Nancy Davis. Reagan eventually married Nancy in 1952. Reagan stepped into the national political spotlight in 1964 when he gave a well-received televised speech on behalf of the Republican presidential candidate Barry Goldwater. 2 years after this speech, in his first race for public office, Reagan defeated the Democratic incumbent by almost 1 million votes and won the California governorship. He was then re-elected for a second term in 1970. In 1980, Reagan defeated Democratic incumbent Jimmy Carter to win the United States presidency. At age 69, he was the oldest person ever elected to the presidency at the time. Reagan's economic policies came to be referred to as Reaganomics. The Reagan administration's economic program emphasized low taxes, decreased economic regulation, lowered social services spending, and increased military spending. These economic policies resulted in both low interest rates and low inflation. Reagan was also heavily involved in foreign affairs during his presidency. The most pressing foreign issue during Reagan's administration was the Cold War involving the Soviet Union. In one of his most famous speeches, he referred to the Soviet Union as the evil empire. He ordered a massive buildup of United States weapons and troops. He also implemented the Reagan Doctrine, which provided aid to anti-communist movements around the world. In 1983, he announced the Strategic Defense Initiative, which was a plan that aimed to develop space-based weapons to protect America from attacks by Soviet Union and nuclear missiles. Another accomplishment of Reagan was when he made history in 1981 as he appointed the first woman to the United States Supreme Court, Miss Sandra Day O'Connor. Reagan's legacy is perhaps what he is best known and remembered for. First and foremost, he was a leader. Reagan is considered by many to be one of the greatest presidents the United States has ever seen. He set out to 1. Revitalize the economy, 2. Rebuild our military, and 3. To restore our position in world leadership. He promised the American people that he would achieve each of these goals that he had based his campaign around, and that is exactly what he did. Also known as the Great Communicator, Reagan was a wonderful public speaker that many will never forget. Through the clarity and simple nature of his words, his sense of humor, and the way he related to his audience, he was able to articulate ideas to listeners better than anyone else in his time. Reagan spoke and the people listened. With his soothing demeanor, he charmed and won the hearts of millions of Americans. A careful look at the Reagan legacy certainly has the potential to provide current leaders with guidelines for a future in which we have peace, freedom, and the capacity to flourish as a nation. Ronald Reagan was so much more than a president. He was a skilled athlete, a successful actor, a loving husband, a natural-born leader, and arguably one of the greatest communicators of his time. He was also a wonderful role model, not only for the presidents that followed him, but also for the American people in general. Ronald Reagan passed away on June 5, 2004 at age 93, making him the longest-lived president at that time. Neither he nor his legacy will soon be forgotten. As the man himself once said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodline. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same for their children. Indeed, President Ronald Reagan fought for and protected our freedom.